Today we're going to have a 2-minute Maggie noodle presentation because there isn't everything we can cover during this session. And we'll give you a glimpse of the ranking. I'll give a glimpse of QS and what we do. So very quickly, our mission at QS is to enable motivated people around the world to achieve their potential by fostering international mobility, educational achievement, and career development. QS started in 1990 while the founder, Nunzio Quacquarelli, was still studying at the Wharton School of Business. He came out with a project called the Top MBA Career Guide. And if you're wondering what the Q in the QS stands for, it's actually Quacquarelli, the name of the first founder. The S is the name of the second founder, Simmons, who came into the organization 2-3 years later. And till today, we maintain the same branding, even though Simmons is no longer with the organization. In 2017, we have over 500 staff members across offices all around the world. In India, we have 3 offices alone, in Mumbai and 2 in Bangalore. And in 2015, we partnered with Mitsui to further expand the what we're doing in the higher education sector. Our rankings are referenced by several agencies, including in India with the Institution of Eminence Project. We do produce a lot of rankings. We also produce the QS Stars rating. Our rankings are approved by IREG. Now, I believe IREG are the rankers of the rankers. They don't rank, but at least they oversee. They're a watchdog agency which looks at what do rankings do, and we have gone through a process to make sure that we produce our rankings transparently and professionally. QS is a rather big and complex organization, so I represent a unit called QS Intelligence Unit, and this is the unit which produces all the rankings. We do consulting, we have the STARS audit, we provide benchmarking, academic visibility. We also have a student recruitment division called the QS Universities, which runs student recruitment events, runs the top universities. The QS Asia office in Singapore, which runs publication and networking events. We have a software solutions division called QS Uni Solutions in Germany. And very recently, we acquired Hobson's, which is an outsourced student recruitment arm, which manages the end-to-end process of a university's international student recruitment process. We also believe we're a social enterprise. We provide scholarships for students. And in 2016 alone, we provided up close to $1.2 million as postgraduate scholarships for students. Very quickly, what's the importance of rankings? And I think that's what the relationship has been with a lot of people. It's a love-hate relationship, not just with QS, but with mostly all the rankers. And this is a quote from Alison Richard, which says, "Rankings have many faults and do not adequately describe whether one institution is better than another." But she's very happy when Cambridge at that time was ranked as the top university. Here is another controversial quote from IREG, which also approved our rankings, which said the current ranking disease seems to have created a need to be ranked, because if you're not in the tables, you do not exist. I don't agree with this quote, because there are approximately 25,000 universities and hundreds of thousands of higher education institutions in the world. And we only rank perhaps the top 4% of this number. So while I'm flattered and the ranking agencies in the world should be flattered, it is not completely true. Today, there are several rankings for you to choose from, and I think there are about 19 odd rankings, and we have 2 rankers here today. And the 3 major rankings, which I think all of you all are familiar with, are Shanghai, QS, and Times Higher Education. And each of these rankings measured something different, and you can see that the Shanghai ranking is an academic performance league table. QS and Times Higher are broad-based league tables. There are some web rankings, there are different other rankings. Basically, you have to choose what you are good at and choose a ranking which you would feature the best with. QS in India has been engaging with the government since many years, and you can see that through our meetings with the past president, with the Ministry of Human Resource Development, with several other people, where we are engaging highly with them to give them information about QS and how the rankings are impacting the country. Who is the audience of QS rankings? And I think all of you all are academics that are industry here, but you are not the main audience for QS rankings. We produce our rankings for students, so that students can make that decision in life when they're going for further studies, when they're choosing an international university. But at the same time, we have an ecosystem. We have academics, we have government leaders, we have employers, alumni. All of them look at QS rankings and reference them for various purposes. And with the Institution Eminence Project, we are mentioned as one of the benchmarks of excellence in India. With the 2018 World University Rankings, just to show you the scale of what we have been doing, in the academic reputation survey, we collected 70,000 responses. In the employer survey, we collected 40,000 responses. We ranked close to 1,000 universities. There were 4,300 which were evaluated in the process. And from Scopus, we picked up 1.2 million papers over a period of 5 years. Just to show you what are 3 offices, one in London, one in Bucharest, and one in Mumbai, do throughout the year is they get data, verify the data, and make sure that we produce rankings which are not only relevant to you, but also credible. But at the end of the day, as George Box said, essentially all models are wrong, but some are useful. And that's what we believe. We are not a perfect ranking. We perhaps don't do everything right, but we believe we are a useful model. And we are listening to you. We're taking feedback. We are sharing this with our team. And we are improving. We are making changes in the rankings as we go on to make sure that we are catching up with time. So let's get into the world ranking. This is one of the rankings which is relevant to India. I'll share with you the methodology. First of all, it has a consistent and simple methodology since the time we have produced these rankings. 2018, we celebrate the 15th anniversary of our rankings. We have kept almost the same indicators. We have done a lot of refinements. I can say that we have produced stable results. It is language independent and definitely has a low dependence on self-reporting. So if you're an institution of eminence, if you're an institution which has national or regional significance, we would rank you irrespective whether you submit data or not. And you will see why when I show you the indicators. 40% of our ranking methodology, our weight is for academic reputation. Now, this is an area where we survey academics and ask them which are the best universities in their research area and in their region of expertise. This is an annual survey. 70,000 responses were collected last year, and these are expert opinion of academics, researchers. About 90% of those which participated were professors, assistant professors, associate professors, lecturers, and of that sort of caliber. 10% weight in the world ranking is for employer reputation. In employer reputation, we survey employers. 40,000 employers participated in this survey last year. And in India alone, there were 1,400 of them. And that's about 4%. And that's a good representation of India. And I'll show you why in the next few slides, why India is doing well in employer reputation. 20% is a weight for faculty-student ratio, and we use a number called FTE, which is a full-time equivalent number. If the institution doesn't submit this number, we would go by the reporting, what it has on the website, or from government sources. Next, we have citations per faculty, which has a weight of 20%. We picked this up from Scopus, and it's for the last 5-year period. For the last ranking, we used 2011 to 2015 for papers produced during that period, and citations for 2011 to 2016. 5% weight for international students and 5% weight for international faculty. So there are 6 indicators, and we can actually deliberate on this for the next 45 minutes, but I've tried to cut it short for you in a couple of minutes here. So these are the indicators, and I have a book available later on if you'd like to get it from me, which has detailed information on the methodology. I'll be happy to share that with you. There were 20 institutions in the last ranking we produced, and you can see that, 2017. It's a year, but we renumbered the ranking to 2018. So we had 20 institutions. There were 14 the year before, so we had 6 new institutions which appeared last year. And I can say the 2 private institutions made a debut for the first time. We have BITS Pilani and Manipal, which made a debut to the world ranking, and the rest of them are all public institutions. Now, let's look at this graph very quickly. We can see that, and contrary to what people say, sorry? I thought it was just 10 minutes. Okay, let's just quickly at this one. So citations per faculty, contrary to what people believe, India scores much higher than the global and even the Asia-Pacific average. Where it takes a hit is academic reputation. So all the great work happening in research is not publicized out. So when people actually participate in the survey, the professors and other people outside are not aware of the great work. So despite having a good impact on citations per faculty, the academic reputation takes a hit. The same goes for employer reputation. When we look at that, it's still lower than the global and Asia-Pacific average. And when we look at all of them, it has the same, almost the same effect. So that's how India performs. Very quickly in Asia, I'll just wrap it up. Academic reputation, 30%, 20% for employer reputation, faculty-student ratio, 15%. Papers per faculty, 10%, 10% for citations per paper. Staff with PhD, 5%. There is a 2.5% for international students and 2.5% for international faculty, and 2.5% for inbound exchange students and 2.5% for outbound exchange students. Now, look at the number over the last few years, because in the Asian ranking, in 2015, we had 21 institutions that rose to 23, and in 2018, it's the last ranking we released, that increased to 35. Now, so that shows us a steady progress of Indian institutions. A far bigger number of private institutions came into this ranking. Again, we have the same problem with citations do better. Employer reputation, interestingly, when we look at Asia, it is better than the rest. Okay, so that's a good sign as well. These slides will be made available along with a detailed booklet, so please request it from me. Lastly, the BRICS ranking. This is the one which really has an impact in India with a large number of institutions. 30% for academic, 20% for employers, 20% for faculty-student ratio, 10% for papers per faculty, 5% for citations per paper, staff with PhD, 10%, 2.5% for international faculty, and 2.5% for international students. 79 Indian institutions appeared in the last ranking. When we compare that to China, we are not far behind, right? That's 111. Very close to Russia and Brazil there. Now, that number, let's look at this number here. It rose by 80% last year, and that's 79 Indian institutions, 14 were private, and 65 were public. So that's a good feat for India. Again, we have, when we look at BRICS, again, we do better for employer reputation, citations, papers per faculty, but we take a hit for internationalization and faculty-student ratio. With this, we are working, again, very hard in India. We have the launch of our Indian rating system coming out of our Bangalore office next week, which will be inaugurated by the Honorable former President Pranab Mukherjee, and I'll be happy to share information with whoever is interested to attend that event next week. We are talking data, and we will go much more detailed at our EduData Summit in Boston, which is hosted by MIT. So please take note of the website, and I'll be happy to share details with you post this. Quickly, my contact details here. It's very easy to reach me on WhatsApp, and my email is there. Thank you so much. I'll be happy to take questions offline.